Hey legends, and welcome back to the least knowledgeable sim racing channel. Normally, when you join a public lobby in a racing game, you do so with the understanding that things are likely to go very, very badly. Generally, you say a prayer to make it through turn 1, but the idea of finishing the race intact doesn't even cross your mind. Yet sometimes you can join a random public event and end up having the race of your life. This video documents how that happened to me. After a very long day of training at Alton Park with some friends, they decided to bail while I kept the party going on public servers. After some very irritating mishaps where a couple of race wins were snatched from me due to technicalities and incorrect fuel calculations, I found myself in a lobby running the most insane racetrack in the world. No, I don't mean the Nürburgring Nordschleife. I mean Mount Panorama, aka Bathurst. This track is a staple on Australian servers because we're all cooked and hate ourselves. I had an old thrown together setup for the McLaren 720S for this track, so I thought I'd just chuck it on and get racing. Because the level of competition on public servers generally isn't very high, I'll admit my thoughts were, I'll just qualify in pole, then leave these sods behind and get some hot lap practice in. Surprise for me then, when I realised I'd be starting the race in second position. Thinking this was a bug, I assumed someone in a Ferrari ran ahead of their position and took a drive-through penalty. How wrong I was. Consider hitting that sub and bell for more existential revelations that come to us through public race lobbies. For now, let's check out this race. Alright, this is us starting off. I've got to say, I was a little bit underprepared for this race. I was kind of fiddling around trying to look for things. I was somewhat distracted because I'd had such a bad run up until this point, but when I looked ahead of me, I noticed that there was a car in front, which was really surprising. I was quite positive that I had qualified in pole, so I wasn't really sure what was going on there. All the same, I decided to get ready and pump it away. Now I was thinking, I'm gonna make mincemeat of this guy. He's like erroneously gone into this position. He definitely doesn't deserve to be there, so I'll just kind of, get him on the straight here, use the slipstream, and we'll go from there. Okay, at this point I'm realizing, my rear wing probably isn't at the right position for me to actually be able to make a pass here on the straight, because I'm just not getting the slingshot effect that I need. So let's try the outside. No such luck. He gets the cambered inside. I kind of fly out wide onto the no grip, non-rubbered in surface. So okay, whatever. We'll catch him on the mountain ascent here. Okay, he's slowed down a little bit. I'm usually not too great with that corner myself, but okay. Getting the impression that the Ferrari is BOP'd a little bit better for the mountain ascent here, given that we're going up the mountain and I'm actually not closing any ground. But that's okay. I know this track reasonably well. I figure I'll get him on the descent. Do a nice aggressive pass down towards the dipper. Alright, we're already making up that ground, so I'm feeling pretty good at this point. 720S definitely seems to have an edge on the descent, if not the ascent portion. Now, okay, definitely going to get him on this straight. Going to get a nice exit out of there. And he's leaving me behind again. And the slipstream isn't helping. So at this point I'm thinking to myself as I look back, okay, we've left everyone behind. That's kind of what I assumed would happen. But unfortunately there's a guy in front of me. This isn't kind of the cruisy Bathurst experience I was expecting. It looks like this guy may have actually qualified in front of me, or at the very least, he may actually deserve to be in front of me, which is not the experience I expected this evening. So, as I try to maintain the gap, try to work out my potential passing strategy, unfortunately the 720S does that lumbering mid-corner slide that I love it for oh so much. I threw together a quick setup for this track. I don't have anything particularly specific, so I knew that there were the gaping holes and flaws in the way that I was going to attack this track as I feel them out over the course of the laps. But I'm very rapidly realizing that this driver is a lot better than I gave him credit for. So coming up the ascent in third, I feel pretty good with that corner. It's definitely one of my stronger performances on Bathurst, leading to my very weakest corner on all Bathurst here. I always lack the traction on the corner exit to really make the move stick. I always lose about 2 to 3 tenths there, unfortunately. And he capitalizes on this, and the Ferrari, for some reason, able to maintain better momentum on the ascent, able to just hold stronger lines for some reason. Whether or not it's a driving issue, a setup issue, or a combination of both, I've yet to work out, but my descent down the mountain is always more aggressive, even if a little hairy like that. But what's Bathurst if you don't have your life in your hands, right? Alright, take 2. Let's get him on the straight. No such luck. We're already getting left behind. So at this point I'm like, This may be a more long-term prospect than I initially gave it credit for. So the race is 20 minutes long. We're almost 4 minutes through, which is okay. There's plenty of laps left, but I'm really starting to think to myself, like, okay, well, staying consistent is one thing, but I'm going to have to strategize a move here. This guy is equally as consistent, I say, as I bang the inside curb, sending me off the line. So I'm definitely going to need to work out something other than just kind of maintaining what I'm doing. Because this guy's already driving me to, well, pushing me to drive more consistently than I normally do. And that's one of the things that's worth exploring here in this video. When you run into a situation like this, a lot of people get dissuaded. A lot of my friends I know do, because I am at a higher skill level than they are, because I am a neckbeard virgin who has nothing better to do than to sim race. So because I tend to be quicker on a track-by-track basis, they tend to get dissuaded at the prospect of racing with me, but that's really not what it's about. Sim racing is about the chance to improve. It isn't about the chance to win. It's about the chance to be better than you were yesterday. It's one of the things I love about it. As I smash off the wall, massive disaster. And speaking of the things that would dissuade people, I was half a second up, leading my way into the 203s. Mind you, it's a 34-degree day, so the track is lava. Us getting into the low 2s is actually pretty remarkable, all things considered. Now, I've banged off the wall. Some people might think, well, I've been having so much trouble keeping up with this guy, even with a fully intact car. What can I possibly do now with rear damage? I don't know how the rear got damaged there, by the way, because I kind of smashed off the front, but whatever. That's ACC's problem, not mine. So as we push through, I'm having all kinds of thoughts. It's like, should I just bail? Should I just go to the garage and leave the server? I mean, what's the point? I'm not going to catch this guy. He's obviously, you know, more locked into this track than I am. The BOP on the ascent is better, and I just push it out of my mind. I go, look, Herman, you're 3 seconds behind. You can lead your own race now. You can let that baggage go, and you can enjoy the prospect of just racing laps of Bathurst with the goal of being consistent. Because ultimately, that's what GT driving is about. It's about consistency. It is not about being the quickest guy in the field. It's about being the guy that can get the car home in one piece. So that's my goal. Get the car home in one piece, and whatever may come, will come. Luckily, the damage isn't causing too many negative effects on the handling of the car. I can't really feel much of anything, which is really good. So I know I can push if I need to push, and try to close that gap if I think such a thing is even possible. And I'm no Bathurst expert, as I'm sure you'll see by many of these laps here. I don't drive it all that often, especially given compared to my many Australian contemporaries. But I mean, I'm relatively confident on the track, and when I have a setup that's reasonably locked in, I think that I'm, you know, passable on it. So finding someone that's really giving me a run for my money like this on a public server is, I mean, I was quite surprised by it personally. As I continue to botch that corner, unfortunately, one of the Achilles heels of my 720S and its setup, I simply cannot get stability on that sweeping left-hander. So I already know that there's time I've left on the table, I'm sure copious amounts of time, but one of the ongoing challenges here is that the track itself is 34 degrees Celsius, so to me, just the act of lapping Bathurst and keeping it on the track is really taking a bit of work. The track surface feels a little greasier than usual. I'm having to make a lot more micro corrections, a lot more counter steering. But so far so good. The Delta points us on a time in the mid to high 203s, which under the circumstances for me, with this setup, with this car, is reasonably okay. We're maintaining the gap. We're still just under 3 seconds, so I know I'm not gaining any ground. We're literally matched 1-to-1 here. The BOP dictates that he gets me on the ascent and I get him on the descent, which makes this a very, very interesting dynamic. And I think to myself, well, what's likely to happen? Are we just going to keep coasting on like this for the next 12 minutes? Is he going to just win the race? Am I just going to keep trailing like this? Will it all be for nothing? But the thing about racing is that the people that you're racing with are also human. They're susceptible to the same pressures that you are. They're susceptible to random occurrences. Maybe we'll run into some back markers. Who knows what can happen? As I achieve my personal fastest lap in the mid 203s, I definitely know I'm leaving a lot of time on the table with the 720S. My brake markers aren't 100% locked in. I'd spent the whole day driving Alton Park, which, despite being fairly bumpy like Sebring, is a very differently flowing track, so I'm not really as synced into this as I could be. It's being one of my favorite sweeping uphill turns. Can really do it on the power. And this being one of my least favorite because I really suck at it. And we try it again, trying to hook it in. You really want to hook it in to get a good exit. This is as good as I've done it to this point. Nothing groundbreaking, but certainly no crazy burnouts on the corner exit, which is better than my usual attempts. So one thing I didn't notice during this entire time was that there was someone in an Aston following us 7 seconds behind. I was so fixated on trying to catch Robert Shaw in front of me that I had no idea what was happening behind me. I just assumed that we had left everybody completely behind and that they had absolutely no chance of being part of this front of the field race. They call that target fixation in fighter pilot land. As I fixate firmly on my target and realize that once again the times are not changing, I'm still just beneath the 3 second mark, the gap hasn't really moved anywhere. I guess at this point I'm simply just shoulder to the wheel, grind it out, just see what happens, hold your line, and see what the winds of fate may bring. There's so much to be said for this because I had several races like this before, which got sidelined by factors such as me running out of fuel on the last lap as I was leading and guys that were 30 seconds behind me taking the win. Anything can happen. It's possible he's put in just not enough fuel, maybe he'll get a puncture by taking a curb too hard. Absolutely anything can happen. But one of the important things for me is to gauge where he's pulling away. Where is he getting better exits? Where are his brake markers better? Where is he able to pull away from me? And so far I can kind of tell it's that entire ascent portion. Perhaps some of it is due to BOP, perhaps the rest of it is due to just skill and him having better inputs on that portion. But I'm already learning, like these are areas I need to work on, whether through setup or my own ability. I know I can shave time right here on this portion and especially on this corner. Me going for the slow as fast methodology, unfortunately losing it on corner exit. But I had been a 10th up until that point. However, he's clearly made a mistake as I'm starting to catch him. The gap between us has basically halved as I bounce off the wall quite radically, but no real damage to speak of. Perhaps some cosmetic damage from the exterior views, but nothing that I myself can feel as the driver, so I'm very, very thankful for that. Sometimes Bathurst gives you a blessing that way. Extremely difficult track on the mountain portion, so we're very thankful sometimes that you can bounce off without causing anything severe to fall off the car. So our gap has been diminished from 3 seconds down to 1. I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe I'm within slipstream distance again. Maybe I can maintain the gap or close the gap again. Maybe I can use that lack of air resistance to my advantage, despite the fact that he seems to be BOP'd slightly better for the power sections. But I try to really get this corner down. The 720S very, very prone to snap mid-corner oversteer, which I guess is a mid-engine car thing in general, really. As we've spoken about in the past, I continuously feel that that's the Achilles heel of ACC's physics model currently, is that you can't feel those snaps coming. They sometimes just step out on you without much indication that it's going to happen. So me doing my best to mitigate the possibility of that, being very careful on the throttle and costing myself the exit speed there. As you can see, costing yourself the exit there is an absolute travesty. That's the last thing you want to happen, because you will lose 2 to 3 tenths on the straight. My hope being I can brake late here and make up the difference in the ascent. Pretty good, hooked it in very nicely there. Haven't really gained any time, but I haven't lost any either. Let me try to hook it in here one more time. Not too bad. Oh, as we lose the car, we lose the rear end on the exit. And that was going to be a great exit right up until that happened. But this is the aforementioned mid-corner oversteer that I was referring to. Something that you can, to an extent, dial out of the car, but something that remains present to some level no matter what you do. I can tell based on the way I'm pulsating. Oh, and the blue flags. Do we have a saving grace? Yes, we've got a 488. A slow back marker has completely stalled our opponent here. Mr. Robert Shaw has no way of passing on the descent. I've of course caught him immediately because this is my car's portion of the track. So, all right, got to get a really good exit here. That's the key. Really good exit. That's what I'm thinking. Yes, exit is great. First gear up to second. Snap it in. Snap it in. Perfect shifts. Use the slipstream. Just right up, nose to tail, back-to-back racing. As I think to myself, this is my chance. This is my one opportunity to do this. As we almost run into the back of the back marker there, I'm thinking, all right, maybe the side draft, maybe I've gotten enough of a slingshot, but no. Door shut by Mr. Robert Shaw there as we go towards the penultimate corners of the track. I've kept it on pretty well. We're nose to tail again. The race is back on. I know in the last 5 minutes I have a chance again to make a move somewhere if I just stick with him. Really nice turn there for me. I was very, very happy with the way that played out. As you can see, the delta already improving. So how we go here. You can tell like there's trepidation, there's anxiety in my movements. I'm not pushing as hard as I normally do. I want to make sure I don't ruin the corner exits. I know all the time to be gained is going to happen on the corner exits. You can see the delta is slowly improving as I work the slipstream, but it's barely there. It's barely affecting me whatsoever. So I'm wondering to myself, like, what do I do? I'm so close. I'm so close. We're so evenly matched. How do I make this stick? How do I make the move? How do I stop myself from falling behind on this ascent here? So I go down to first to try and maintain more torque than usual, but it's to no avail. The Ferrari just pulls away completely, just has better traction on that corner exit. Absolutely nothing I can do as it just pulls away from me. The sense of frustration balanced out with the realization that yes, I'll probably get him after the dipper. Here I think my line is slightly superior. I go wider, I cut across. I go over the curbing because I'm an absolute maniac and don't care about undercarriage damage, which I know isn't modeled in ACC at present. Oh, there's massive snap oversteer there and I ruined my exit, absolutely ruined my exit on that straight. And I know I've lost that slipstream again. With just under 4 minutes left to go on the race, I think to myself, like, what is it going to take? This is a bit of a masterclass in learning all the areas I need to be more consistent in, all the areas I need to pull away better in. But how do I convert this knowledge to a race win? How do I pull away from this impenetrable 488 in front of me? Because he seems immune to making any drastic mistakes. He's very, very consistent. It's been a 20-minute race of just continual lines. Our times are very close to one another. We tend to be half a second apart, lap to lap, even in spite of back markers. Very often our lap times are simply just 1 to 2 tenths off what we've been doing from the laps before and after, so I know that nothing much is changing from lap to lap, and as he bounces off, things are getting a little bit more erratic for him, and I'm wondering to myself, what's that all about? Will I slow down? Oh, and unfortunately get understeer on the corner exit there again. really not my corner, and I'm realizing at this point that this is the one area of the track I really need to work on, both with setup and my technique. So we maximize the track, trying to use everything that we can. Oh, as he oversteps these bounds, just bounces around, absolute pinball at the top of the mountain, and Mount Panorama has completely totaled him. So whether that was pressure, whether that was just a lapse in judgment, whether that was anything, that's all that it takes at Mount Panorama. And again, this is what I was saying at the very beginning. That can be your opening. That can be all that it takes for you to go from 5th to the podium, from 10th to pole. It can be absolutely anything. Like even the most impenetrable wall in front of you can still make a mistake eventually, and all you need to do is make sure that you're there to capitalize on that moment. It's all about being there and creating that opportunity for yourself. I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that isn't several seconds worth of damage. There's no way that that isn't going to cost him the race. And he was very gracious and nice to actually get off the track so I could pass and not total me with him. As I just think to myself, okay, consistency is key, as I realize that the Aston behind me has actually closed the gap somewhat. As we're on the final lead, the Aston is about 6 seconds behind. Robert Shaw, I believe, has teleported back into the pits. As we're approaching a back marker up ahead of us. About 10 seconds difference. I'm thinking to myself, 6 seconds behind, 10 seconds ahead. I'm probably not going to run into anyone on this lap, so I just need to keep it consistent. Nothing blazing fast, no heroics, but nothing super slow either. We don't want that Aston getting any more of a foothold than it already has. We, after all, do have damage on this car. It's very possible that it's costing me lap after lap after lap, and that does add up over time. It's possible that Aston is brand spanking new. As we maintain the gap reasonably well to the Aston. Braking quite aggressively as I notice another 488 up ahead of me. A back marker way behind. As he graciously stops and pulls over to the side. Absolutely no obligation to do that when you're under blue flag in GT races, but very nice when people do it. He's obviously having a rough time with the mountain, and I mean, I don't blame him. It's a very difficult track, arguably the most difficult in the game. So very grateful to that, M. Del Maso. Thank you very much. With that extremely poor latency, not sure why people join Australian servers. I mean, we barely ever have anybody playing, much less to deal with the disadvantage of high latency. So here we go, about to cross through the finish line for the very last time. And I guess the moral of this story, guys, is to stick with it. If you find yourself in a position where you're so evenly matched or outmatched by somebody else, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world. Don't leave, don't throw in the towel, don't call it quits. Stick with it, see what happens, see what you can learn, see if you can become better for the next time that you do this. And that's always been my operating methodology, whether it be in the audio industry, whether it be starting businesses, whether it be here in sim racing. Life is simply the same. Like whether you're at the gym, whether you're out and about, just in social circles trying to make headway, the same principles always apply. So if you find yourself in this position, stick with that person for as long as you can. See what comes of it. Anyway, guys, until next time, hope you enjoyed this wild and wonderful race around Mount Panorama. I'll see you guys next time.